Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. If you've already subscribed to our channel, thank you very much. If you haven't, please do. And when you do, be sure and tap on the notification bell so you'll be notified each time we put up a new video. Okay, in our last video, I was dealing with an issue on this bike, and I'm not really satisfied yet that I've gone over it adequately. And what it was this Knucklehead is gathering too much oil up in the heads. Now the oil goes up through this line and splits here and goes to both rocker boxes. And it returns through those little bitty lines and through the push rod tubes. Everything is oiling well. Everything is oiling a little too well. So I decided I wanted to get into the oiling system and really learn it a bit. Any of these I've done in the past, I didn't have this problem, so I'm having to learn this problem now. The problem is that when you get too much oil up there on the top, then it just leaks out around the tins and everywhere else, because these things are not really airtight and oil tight and all kinds of tight that you'd like them to be. This is real primitive, and this is the Knucklehead is Harley's first attempt at a full circulating oil system. They were just splash systems before that. So the oil returns from the rocker boxes down the push rod tubes and all that stuff, and the vacuum from the motor sucks it down there, and that means that all this stuff needs to be sealed real well, your push rod tubes and everything else. And we're there. So I went through the pump and I took out that valve that's in there, and I went through that and explained it to the best of my ability on the channel last time. And I've read everything Harley has to say. And there's things that I have friends that have to say. And I got a comment in the comment section from one of our viewers that said, "Mike, did you look in the old Easy Riders Tips and Tricks books? It's explained very well in there." Well, I remembered that. I didn't remember it then until he said so, and I do appreciate it. So I went and got my old Tips and Tricks book out, and what they explain is to lessen the amount of oil to the top, you can put in a restrictor and all that sort of thing, and I did. I actually made a restrictor for this thing at one point. And I tried to remember when I started getting this gushing problem. And I think it's after I took the heads apart last time, because I did take them apart and put some pretty neat valves in there a while back. So that should be it. So in that article, they explained that rotating the rocker arm shafts will lessen the flow. You can either increase or decrease it. So I did the front one already, and I said, okay, I'm going to save the back one so I can show it on the channel. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I went through the book, and what the book said is the shaft needs to be turned, the intake valve, the rocker shaft for the intake valve has to be rotated slightly counterclockwise. And on the exhaust shaft here, this one, the exhaust valve, rocker arm shaft, is we need to turn it clockwise slightly. So one of the things I did, and I wanted to show this anyway, these big nuts are just a little bit undersized of 1 3/8. And this beautiful old 1 3/8 antique wrench I have, which I've had for a long time, I think it was old when I got it. What I do in cases like that is I put duct tape on them. And by doing that, I won't scratch up these beautiful nuts. You know, I've had people criticize me because I use open-end wrenches instead of box wrenches so much. And the point is, I don't want to knock the corners off of these big chrome nuts. So here we're going to loosen this one. And one of the issues is you have to have spacers under them. whether they be paper or what they are. The guy that originally put this bike together was an old timer, so he used brass in there, and it's cool. I like it. So I can take this nut loose. Now, granted, I already cracked them loose before we started the video, so that's basically what we did. Okay, and we can see here the spacer he had. And the reason for that spacer, well, the reason he used this brass washer is because it's sealed up here, and this thing did not leak a drop, so we're just going to wipe it clean and put it right back on again. With a little white lithium grease. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to take the nut off the other end of the shaft, and the reason being, I can't turn it from this end. I need to turn it from that end. See? Hopefully everybody could see that. So I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to take that nut off, which I'll be honest, I actually did take that loose too, with an open end wrench so I wouldn't slip and tear up those corners. Okay, now we're going to just leave that washer on there. I have two little bitty nuts here. I'm going to drop them into this big nut. And why would you do that? Well, because I want it to stop on the shaft. And I think it will. I think it'll go on far enough to do that. Yes, it did. I think we'll take the washer off to make sure we've got enough space in there. Okay. Have no idea where that went. It hit that big blue panel down there, but that's all right. That's all right. Here's what we're going to do. I put two nuts into that acorn nut so I could space it off just a bit. And what I'm going to do, okay, that nut is pretty tight right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it one flat. That's one flat. Here we go. We haven't moved it yet. No. There it is. I did. Wait a minute. Yep. We got it one flat. Now what I did is I rotated the engine until there was no pressure on these. And then I actually moved that nut. I could feel it float. It wasn't turning the shaft. I'm going to back off again.
You just took two flats off.
I know, we're backing off, okay, because I really didn't get a good reading on that one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to move that now because I've got it moving. It's jarred loose now. So we can go like that, and there is one flat. I backed it off two because I had given it two. You don't think so?
Mm-mm. I think even one more flat, you'll be one flat.
One more flat?
Yeah. If not, you kick my butt later.
Okay. Now that's something everybody'd pay to watch, huh?
Right there.
Okay, now once that's done, I've got to take that nut off of there and hopefully not turn the shaft. And it's not turning. With my right hand on the shaft, it's not turning. Okay. And that's what those little nuts in there were for, is so this nut, so the big acorn nut couldn't bottom. Okay, then I will do the other one, which is exactly the same, only in the opposite direction. So this one, I will take this nut off. And this washer. And then we'll go back to the other side. And we're going to turn it clockwise as soon as I take it off. Now watch that shaft over there if you would, Mike. Make sure it doesn't turn.
Turning.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. You should have loosened that one.
I should have loosened it first, huh? Well, you know what we'll do then. Okay, now make sure that it goes the same amount. Well,
Right
it
there,
needs
yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Best guess.
How far?
That's good.
Is that one flat? No, that's putting it right back where it was.
That's right. Right.
Okay, then we can go like this and turn it one flat.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to turn it one flat over to there. That should be it. That's it. All we need to do is put that nut back on the other side. It's really hard when you're trying to trick these things into turning without turning. Yeah. Okay, so that one's good. The other one's okay. So all we need to do, now this is just an experiment anyway, to see if we get a change. I'm also going to turn the pressure down slightly. So let me get some white lithium grease here on this washer. And we'll put this one back on and the nuts back on. And I will report later what it did, because we will fire it up. I'm not going to fire it up this very moment.
I would pay to watch that.
Yeah, well, we'll fire it up. Just not at the moment. I got a couple more things I want to clean before I fire it up. I know, I'm one of those guys that has to have everything that clean. No, I just have to have this thing that clean. This is the one thing in my life that has to be clean. This and my dog. My dog should be in the doghouse today. But anyway.
She's doing what dogs do.
Yes, she did.
She just happens to really like doing it.
Yeah, that's the part that concerns me. My dog is really sweet. That doesn't mean I want her to eat me when I sleep. Okay, did you find that other washer? I see it. You did. Very cool. It's just an airborne washer. It ain't no thing. Okay, so we'll put it on there. And it's on. The other one is already... No, it's not. Let's see. It's going on right now. All right. Okay. There's the exhaust. There's the intake.
You're not turning it.
Well, I have you to watch it. That's not turning at all. Okay. And this one here, see it? Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Just save somebody from typing it in.
That's why I tightened them up a little bit when I put them on. You can't be sure. You can't be positive. I don't know of any way you could do it. Okay, so now I'm going to tighten this. And with a lever this long, you don't have to grunt very hard on it. And you always have to have a shimmer, something under here, because you got to stand off from the rocker box at least 10 thousandths. And there they are.
Why is that?
Otherwise, they're going to gouge right into the box.
Okay.
They're not going to seal.
There you go.
Well, worse than that, gouge into that beautiful. You know, those rocker boxes were old rocker boxes when I got them. And I traded a chrome pair for them. That one's done. Pardon?
That's some love on him.
It took me about 2 weeks on the dining room table.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Okay, there it is. Now, as long as we're there, I can clean these black marks off with a little alcohol. It'll take about a minute. What I did want to do is I have my measuring device out here. I knew I did. And the factory setting. Now remember, these are early primitive systems. And Harley, actually it's not primitive, I guess is what I'm saying, is it's so sophisticated compared to what they had at the time. And the way they generally do these is this is the running pressure here. And that's a valve in there. And what they start out with, according to the book, is 3/8, which is 375. 125, 125, and 125 is 375, which is 3/8. 375 right there. Okay, I have backed off on it a little bit. I'm going to back off on it a little more now. Now, when it's put where the factory wanted it originally, it was at 3/8. In other words, 3/8 of an inch from here to the piece inside. That piece which is the plunger for the valve. And the tighter it's in other words, the more that length of free space in there increases, the higher the pressure. At 3/8, according to the factory, at 3/8 of an inch, this thing is making 30 pounds of pressure running down the road, which is way, way more than an old Harley needs. What an old Harley wants. I had a friend years ago who was quite a knucklehead expert, and he was a good buddy of mine, a man by the name of Harold Reynolds. Harold's not with us anymore. But Harold told me every year when he takes his cross-country trip on his Knucklehead, and he had a Knucklehead in an old K-model frame, and I mean it was something. And it flew like everything Harold did. And Harold says, when I'm jamming across the desert in 100 and some plus degrees of weather, he says, and he used to run a gauge on it. He says, I look down at that gauge, and if it's making 9 pounds of pressure, I'm good to go. So 30 pounds is probably a major part of what my problem is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off on that thing even more than it is now by a half a turn. Okay? And we'll see how much of a difference in measurement that made. You can see right there about probably 40 thousandths. I think we might back off even a little bit more. Like about that much more. Now that's 3/4 of a turn. And then to close it back up. Now understand, when I get this thing running again, which is not going to take any real time, but when I get it running again, what I'm going to do is get it started, And then I'm going to pull a cap off the oil tank, and I'm going to watch the oil return to the tank. Now, if you've got oil and it's not getting up any higher than the level it is, it's going into the motor and it's coming out of the motor and going into the oil tank, you're getting circulation. You're good to go. These things are not dependent upon oil pressure. They have roller bearing crankshafts. They don't need the pressure in plain bearings like a car. And we'll just see what we got here. And we're going to do that. So right now it's all back together and ready to go. Other than the fact I want to charge the battery up and maybe put some fresh gasoline in her. But she's ready to go. For those people who think I'm not doing anything concerning the Flathead, my pistons came in. I wanted to order them and get them here before I got the cylinders sleeved. I'm going to get the cylinders sleeved back to standard. Well, heck. Something happened with this back box. I know I opened it. There it is. But here's my new pistons, and they are standard at 3 7/16, which is an 80-inch flathead. Well, they're not bigger than anything else. They're 3.5 inch, or they're 3 7. I think they're 3 7/16 of an inch diameter.
Pretty.
And they're big. And they have a steel strut inside them, just like the factory original piston.
Nice.
They even say HD in them.
Wow.
There it is. Pretty cool. So that's pistons and wrist pins and keepers, and rings came with them. And it's a good set of standard Hastings rings, which is pretty much standard for this. And so now I need to get those cylinders done. There's a few trick things I want to do to them before they go in for their sleeves. But they're getting complete new sleeves put in them. And I will send these pistons with them and specify how much clearance I want on them. And that's the way you do that. So don't think I forgot about the Flathead. I did not. I'm still trudging along, trying to get things lined up, and as I do them, I will show them. So that's coming up next, hopefully. Or maybe this will come up next again and we can show it. Oh, by the way, we have our t-shirts, which you can get by going to our website, which is pacificmike.com. That's not a YouTube channel, that's just pacificmike.com on the internet. And there's a thing up in the upper right-hand corner, something about t-shirts. Just click on that and that'll take you to t-shirts. And hopefully we'll be coming up with even more t-shirts soon, so we'll see. So until then, I'll see you out on the road.